meaning you're going to make your own independent determination on those particular issues, regardless of what the CEO determined. And I'll be here to help you if you have any questions about that once you get to that stage of the appeal.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. When does the board get to ask questions?
We can ask questions as they go. We'll let whoever's speaking have their chance to make their presentation, and if we have any questions as the process goes on, I'd like to ask them then and not call them back up so that it's fresh in our mind.
Okay.
So as each party gets up, we'll have our questions so we can get a better understanding of what the issue is.
Okay. Thanks.
Is it Stefano's? Is that right? Okay. I believe we have a letter from you, and we've read it over. And I guess if you'd like to come up to the podium and state what your concerns are so that we can understand.
So our concerns is the unwanted traffic that has come in all hours of the night. Also that the deed for the property says that there's supposed to be no mobile homes, residential trailers, metal storage buildings, which there are, storage containers shall be permitted on lot in said subdivision. And the subdivision shall be used solely for single-family residential purposes. Home occupations as allowed under applicable municipal ordinances are permitted. So they're saying that it's a home occupation building for medical marijuana is allowed in the R3 zoning, which we are, only on properties which have frontage on Route 9 and Route 4, which is not Ridland Road. And our other concern is safety. Like, this is a neighborhood full of hundreds of kids. How's this stuff being stored? Is it being accessed outside? And the waste. I mean, they do everything from seed to sale, their business. How, if you're extracting, you're using butane, which then turns it into an industrial occupation. Where's all that waste from that going? Down the road into our driveway.
To our well. There's also cars from all out of state, so if it's a home marijuana business, I don't understand why New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, or Massachusetts needs to be frequenting this business.
So this was also checked off that they are in full compliance for the caregiver operating under the home occupation. And this is the checkoff. There should be, the home occupation shall be carried on by residents of the dwelling unit. There's someone that shows up 8 to 4 every day to work. Home occupations may not alter the residential character of the structure, which there's a huge extension off the front of their existing home.
Industrial looking build.
It says one non-illuminating sign no larger than 4 square feet, which is not, there's no sign on the premises. So I don't understand how they're in compliance with all of that. You want your business, that's fine. I have nothing against your business, but put it where it belongs, on Route 4 or Route 9. Not on Ridland Road.
Lots of kids.
Yes.
Do you want me to speak, or do you want me to wait and just make notes?
Just take notes for now,
Can
please.
I also say something? When this all started, it first started out as a garage. Yet there were no garage doors.
Nope, sir, sir. You'll have your chance.
Started out as a garage. And then
So
it was
which-
a residential for a family member, and now it's morphed into this. Why back door? Why wasn't there transparency? Why isn't there transparency when this business was set up? A man around the neighborhood built a metal garage. He went around and asked all the neighbors. That's called courtesy.
And this also says for the building permit, is gonna be a extension to the existing garage with a rooftop deck, which is not there. I don't like I have 4 kids, aging from 11 to 4. I don't feel like this is appropriate in a residential neighborhood, which it also says in the deed for that property should be solely for single-family residential purposes, not businesses, in a residential R3 zoning. And I don't appreciate being screamed at from the rooftop deck
By
for
the business
profanities
owner.
when I have my child in my presence by the business owner.
And if you want the initials, it's see you next Tuesday, is what she called my daughter-in-law in front of my 4-year-old grandson.
Resolution on this, that's, we've got, I guess we've got to decide, or we've got to come to some understanding of what was allowed, what is allowed, and then we can go from there. So I think we've heard some of your concerns. Is there any questions on anything that they've said so far?
I would like, do I ask through you, or?
That's fine. You're
Okay,
recognized.
when you say is traffic all hours of the night, what do you mean by that?
So their business operating hours say from 2 to 9 according to their website. We've seen traffic 10, 11, 12,
Pull in, 10 minutes gone.
not even 10 minutes.
The other night, they had a flashlight to have the person direct them where to come.
Basically you're arguing that this permit never should have been issued. Is that true?
Yes.
You don't believe that they meet the rules to have a home occupancy in the first place, that they should be on Route 9?
For this particular
For this
business
use.
that they have.
That's,
I have nothing against your business. Nothing against your business, if that's what you choose to do, but put it where it belongs. It does not belong on Ridland Road. Because it says right here, you can have a home occupancy business in R3 zoning, which is what we are on Ridland Road. But if you have a medical marijuana, it needs to have frontage on Route 4 and Route 9, not Ridland Road.
so we have the use on Ridland Road, you have an issue with the traffic. What other, and the worker? You say that
As a worker.
there's a worker that's working there?
Which is not, if you do a home occupation, it's supposed to be just the residents of the home.
Right.
I would like to know about the traffic and, what's the usual traffic in the subdivision and what now is the increased traffic?
So there used to be a lot of traffic because we had a bridge that went to a pond. That bridge is now closed, but I have people that are passing their driveway, turning around in my yard. I have 4 kids. I don't want people, unwanted traffic turning around in my yard.
And you were talking about, I think, increased traffic. So do you see more
If you're-
traffic or?
If your hours of operation are from 2 to 9, that's when kids are getting off the bus, and you got unknown vehicles from Massachusetts and New York.
Connecticut, New York.
I mean, when your kids are getting off the bus.
Again, I'm asking how much traffic is there?
I mean, I'm not going to sit in the window and count the cars that pull in.
But if we have to, we will.
No.
I've seen on average maybe 10 cars per day. which I understand meets the less than 20. I get that.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Have you had any occasion in your concern for traffic to call the police as a result of something that you saw or occurred as part of this?
No,
So there's
not
been-
yet, but they're supposedly just up and running, so I don't. Give it time.
Yes, sorry.
There are police reports on this subject, to answer your question. Yes, there are.
Do you have anything further you would like to mention at this time?
I'm a registered nurse for 42 years. This has its place. I agree there's a place for medical marijuana, but it doesn't belong in a neighborhood full of kids. What's the safety gap that nothing is going to come out of that house and make it to kids in the neighborhood? Where's the safety? I mean, it's all been backdoored. It hasn't been transparent. I'm not feeling really good about it being over there, especially when I see all these out-of-state vehicles. When all these states have the ability to get it in their own state, you're coming all the way to Maine to get her brownies and her products from New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, that's a stretch. I had a home-based business. I went around to every neighbor that I abutted and talked to them before I opened it. It's called business courtesy.
And
I
do-
made sure it didn't impact any of them.
And I do understand that. It's going to be whether the ordinance allows it or not. I mean, we can hear concerns like that, but ultimately, it's what the wording in this ordinance allows and doesn't allow in the area that we're in. So that's what I believe this board is going to have to discuss and debate after we've heard, everybody's concerns. We're going to have to decide where we go from there. Do you understand where we're coming from there?
Oh, I do.
So if the board has no further questions at this time, I mean, we certainly, if we have things come up over the course of this hearing and we need to have you come back up, we'll certainly ask you to stand back up and answer any questions that we may have, because I expect that as it goes along, things will more come to light and we'll maybe need some additional information. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I believe it's the Roys, is that right?
Yep.
Is there someone who wants to speak?
Attorney.
Good evening, Chair Ingalls and Vice Chair Wood and the rest of the board, Code Enforcement. I'm Jill Polster. I'm Managing Partner at Cohen Law Maine. I'm here tonight representing Jessica Roy. Her husband is here, Matthew Roy. My law firm specializes in representing medical marijuana caregivers and other marijuana businesses, so this is all I do. So I appreciate the opportunity to be heard tonight. I submitted a letter in advance. I think you all probably have it
You
in your
have that,
packet.
yes, Thank you.
And I just want to touch on a few things from my letter and then respond to the appellant, some of the issues raised by the appellants. As I indicated in our letter, a municipality cannot prohibit or limit the number of medical marijuana caregivers. That is state law. Furthermore, local authorization is not required for a home-based caregiver. So Berwick has put in place an ordinance that does require a home occupation permit. Berwick's Land Use Ordinance 8.25.2 provides that as an accessory use, medical marijuana caregivers shall be permitted as a home occupation business in any medical marijuana caregiver's primary year-round residence in every base zone and overlay zone. So they're allowed to be medical marijuana caregivers. I understand there's concern about transparency in the process. What I've been told by the town, by my clients, is this process has gone on for a year or more, that the appellants have been heard on numerous occasions, that they were well aware of the permits that have been applied for both for construction and for the home occupation. Construction is still underway at 68 Ridland Road. So the plan for the building that's been put on the front, it will have a rooftop deck when it's completed. It will be fully landscaped. I was over there before this meeting. It blends with the house. If you did not know, you wouldn't know. And that project has been permitted. Locations is obviously this is a vacation destination, and Maine caregivers are allowed to serve patients from other states. There is a list of approved states that's available on the Office of Marijuana Policy website. It is an authorized caregiver activity to sell to patients from out of state who have valid medical cards from their issuing state and photo ID. So to me, it is not unusual that a place as beautiful as Berwick, Maine would certainly have a lot of visitors, and some of them bring their medical cards with them. Have a lot of visitors, and some of them bring their medical cards with them. So I don't think people are driving up from New York to shop at 68 Ridland Road. I want to touch on a few others. Actually, on the website and on Weed Maps, where this business is listed, it does appear to make the business look like more than it is. That's marketing. The business is Jessica Roy and her husband, and he, so far, has not been allowed to have a home occupation permit to be a caregiver, even though he's well within his rights to ask for one. They were told only one would issue for this property. That's a separate issue, I think. But Jessica has been issued a home occupation permit. They do not have cultivation up and running at that site at this time. So there's been no wastewater. I mean, they're just still under construction. They do not engage in butane extraction. I'm not sure where that came from. So there is no inherently hazardous extraction occurring on the property. It's solely a cultivation operation for one caregiver. So the maximum she can do at that site would be either 30 plants, and this would be flowering plants, or she could pay for extra plants, but it still has to be within 500 square feet. So there are sort of built-in limits for a medical marijuana caregiver, and then you layer on your performance standards. So she's compliant with the Office of Marijuana Policy, she's compliant with state law, and today and every day is compliant with Berwick's land use ordinance. The operating hours, actually, it's listed that the operation is closed because it's by appointment only. And that's what a patient would see if they look up Stash Inc. online, that it is closed all the time, that you have to call and make an appointment. The 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock hours referenced by the appellant relate to the delivery service that is offered by Stash Inc. They don't do a lot of delivery because it's really only the two of them, but delivery is allowed for medical caregivers. They keep referring to an employee. Employees of caregivers have to be registered with the state as caregiver assistants. Jessica had a medical card before they even set up an appointment. Those appointments are only during normal business hours, and there are significantly less than 10 of those a day.
I can address the late night. I take off.
You need to stand up.
Okay.
Just go ahead and state your
sorry.
name.
No, my name is Matthew Roy. I'm one of the residents. I just want to let you know, like the traffic. I take off. I work at night. I also own a construction business, which I don't operate out of that location. So if I take off at 4 in the morning, or if I take off at 12 o'clock at night, that's for me to take off. Or if one of my employees comes to pick me up for construction, that has nothing to do with my wife's business. Thank you.
I do think it's unfortunate that the neighbors haven't spoken to each other. I'm just in this now, so I haven't been in it the whole year plus that this process has been working its way through the town. You know, I certainly think that better communication would help this situation because there's certainly a high level of misunderstanding about the operations that are occurring at 68 Ridland Road. There are allegations being made by the appellant of bad behavior. I'm not going to air dirty laundry in public like this, but we could certainly have a list of bad behavior coming from the other direction. I just don't think that's appropriate in this forum. And we're not trying to call people out like that. We're here, for a very narrow inquiry, which is whether this home occupation permit was rightfully issued to Jessica Roy. We say that it was. She's in compliance with state law. She's in compliance with local ordinance. The business is barely even up and running. There's no cultivation on site at this time. There is definitely no inherently hazardous substances being used for extraction and no plan ever to do that. One of my bigger concerns for them is their caregiver status under state law is confidential. Through Berwick's process, it has certainly been paraded out. We're on YouTube now. Everybody knows this would contribute to the unsafe, if there were an unsafe condition, the trotting out of this in public, I have a real problem with. Because under state law, they're entitled to confidentiality, and that has been blown wide open. We are now broadcasting to I don't know how many people. And again, that's an issue for another day as far as Berwick's process, because their confidentiality should be ensured even through the process of applying for a home occupation permit. They're not operating in a commercial zone. And there's a difference in how you regulate caregivers who operate at home and how you regulate caregivers who have taken a lease in a commercial zone or bought a building in a commercial zone. Because certainly operating in a commercial zone is very different than a home occupation in your house. So of course they have concerns, I have concerns for them that this has now all repeatedly been aired in a public forum. They just got this permit the first week of March. And now here we are 30 days later with complaints, and they're not even really up and running. So we would ask that you leave the permit in place. It was properly issued. They are compliant, and hopefully things will get better on Ridland Road going forward. Thank you. I don't know if you guys want to say anything else or wait and answer questions.
You can answer.
I'm happy to answer any questions and all of the same exact
Could you stand up,
questions.
Ms. Roy?
To the microphone. Yeah, sorry about that.
Guys, froze again.
Okay, just a second.
Hi, I am Jessica Roy. I am the owner of 68 Ridlawn Road. I'm also the owner of Stash. I would like an opportunity to answer every question that the opposers have brought forth. So, do we have a list of, she brought.
Probably as it goes on, they may have questions.
Okay.
I think that's where it's going to come. It's all kind of coming at us at once right now. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I've read all the material, and now I'm listening and trying to formulate it and put it all together. And as we, I believe, start the discussion phase, it may be to the point where I hope we can open up for discussion, open up for questions that we may have, in the discussion phase. Again, I'm not familiar entirely with the process, but right now we're just trying to gather information, and then we'll go through trying to figure out where we head from here. Does the board have any questions right now?
Is this where I would ask questions about the letter that they wrote?
I would think this would be fine.
Okay. I would like to quote some things that you wrote in your letter. Can you hear?
Not very well.
Who are you? If you're addressing someone, they probably should come up to the podium.
Uh-huh.
I only do that because people at home don't have any clue what's going on behind her, so she's going to talk to you if you want to listen.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry about that.
Can you hear me now? Not really?
It's just,
No, I want to be
The mic's
heard.
not on for here. It's the
It's
mic's
on TV, so they can't, you're not like pronouncing to her right now. You're just going to speak.
Oh, this isn't on.
If you just, I guess, speak up, Pat.
That's for home.
Okay, here goes.
There you go.
So in the letter that you wrote to these two, James and Jen, the
last year, by the way, last year.
no date on the letter, you wrote, "We will not be needing any additional parking spaces because no one will be coming to our home. There will be no new deliveries to the house from any heavy trucks. The only heavy trucks that access our residence are FedEx, UPS, and US Mail, and trash. The traffic we receive is family or friends. We have no intentions of people coming to our home for our occupation. We are not putting up any signs on or near our home or property
You froze again. We cannot hear you.
We have no intentions of people coming to our home for our occupation. We are not putting up any signs on or near our home or property regarding our new occupation. We do not advertise that our occupation is a pickup location, nor would we for safety. We have spoken to other services.
Hey, Candy, we can hear you. It's them, not us.
It's what?
Stand by.
Oh, there we go.
It's what?
When you, Pat, when you were speaking, you froze again, so we couldn't hear everything that you were seeing or saying. I'm sorry.
Maybe just go back a minute.
How far back do I go?
About a minute.
Just, Pat, just a second.
So you were talking about how there would be only family and friends at the house and there would be no unwanted traffic and no large
Trucks.
trucks. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
just a second, I'm gonna, again, not familiar. Are we supposed to stop when we hear that something's frozen? I mean, this is
I
getting,
would pause until they figure it out and they can hear you.
okay,
Because that means our town attorney can't hear either. So.
okay.
Okay. Okay. So we have no intentions of people coming to our home for our occupation. We are not putting up any signs on or near our home or property regarding our new occupation. We do not advertise that our occupation is a pickup location, nor would we for safety. We have spoken to other services in the area with similar occupations and have figured that vehicle trips per day may be closer to half the 20 trips currently allowed by the ordinance. Okay, for me, this is very confusing because in this letter, you're saying people are not going to be coming to do any kind of pickup. Is that correct?
Absolutely, ma'am. And if you'll look at the date on it, it says December 31st, 2018. And since then, I've had so many roadblocks that yes, my business plan has in fact changed, but it has not changed very much. In fact, I actually have less traffic right now than I did previously because I am now by appointment. Previously, I'd come closer to this number because of the amount of times that I would come home, go to the office, answer my clients, pack up, and deliver directly to them. It was very difficult for me at that time to continue to run that way. Since then, I've had many, many different roadblocks. When I started off this business, it's all been out of my pocket. I count in my husband's business, which is a construction business. We allocate time for my sister to come daily, who just moved out. We allocate time for groceries. I have 3 children, 14 to age 4. We take part in everything within the community. I've been a Boy Scout leader. I've been a substitute teacher. I have taught sports. I have never, ever once thought, that what I do to help people is in the wrong location or that I am wrong for doing what I do. I've made sure that I've crossed I've done everything. I've even let the neighbors know the reason why I run this business. It's because my husband is very, very ill and I can't continue to run a construction company. I need to know how to provide for my family so that things don't change for my children. That's why I do what I do. Not because I am a glorified drug dealer, not because I'm doing anything wrong in the community, but I'm made to feel that way on a daily basis.
Well, I feel then like this letter then is not,
Just a second.
I feel like this letter then is not at all up to date, and I really
Exactly.
feel
And
like
if you would ask me for a new one, I would be
I would
happy.
I would
to
like
either
to
do
have
it
a new one
myself
because I think it's important that we know exactly because it was so confusing for me to hear no people are coming, no one's coming for pickups, and yet you have directions on the website how to get to your house. So, the things that they just, one thing didn't say the
That's an automatic
other.
map through Weed Maps. I don't ever list that it's 68 Ridlawn Road. And when people come, it's actually very difficult because of where we are. Weed Map sends them all around through Hubbard, and they can't cross now. It's actually a big issue for my patients.
Yes, well, I just feel like the information that we have here is not
I
particularly
would
up
love
to
to have
date.
seen you back in like even January of 2019, and then maybe this would have been much more relevant.
And I think, I'm going to interrupt Pat for just a second. I think we're going to have the chance for the code officer.
Home occupation
So
also.
my husband and I have been construction owners for the past 2 years now. Never once did I have to ask my neighbors if I was a construction owner, though.
Ma'am, address me, please.
So yes, I have been a construction owner. My husband has owned Stone Age Stoneworks, and yes, that business is being liquidated because of his health.
And how did you use your home business in that situation, your home occupation business?
How did I use it? As
Yeah.
an office to pay bills. It's a construction business, so my husband is the
So
largest
you had, it
retaining
was an
wall builder in the
office
Eastern
where you
Seaboard.
paid bills and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
We
it was
never
a-
seen anybody, nobody ever comes over.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, if I would have anybody, it would be our employees that would be picking up their paycheck at the time or building my beautiful retaining walls around the property, that sort of thing.
And I'm assuming you had a occupancy permit for that as well? Yes, okay.
okay.
Yes, Ernie?
I'd like to ask you the question, as you probably know, home occupancy with regard to an occupation is saying, to me anyway, it is saying that it's for the residents only who are doing the work. And so my question to you, do you have an employee that does not live
No, sir.
on the
I do
residence,
not. And
in the
legally,
residence?
I need to have them registered with the state.
Yeah,
through
I have to very
Okay,
apologetic.
I hear you, because I have a hard time too. So I do not have anybody other than my husband that is actually registered and legal. He is my only helper that I
Okay.
have. Technically, when you're a married couple, you need to be each other's helpers. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's what we have to do.
You guys got it down pretty good, though. And we're back.
We're back. Okay, Pat.
What
back to your
what about the
question.
registered nurse that comes? Do you pay her, is she an employee to?
No.
No.
I don't. The only person that pays a registered nurse is a patient of the registered nurse. It has nothing to do with me. All I do is provide the medicine in which they need. I don't provide the license. I don't give the yay or nays. I am just there to say, I can help you, and this is a great person that can do that for you. You can talk with this person, and you can get a medical card with them if you so choose. It's not a payment that goes to me. It's nothing I collect. It's nothing that I pay for.
Okay. Thanks.
Does she have office hours there, though?
No, and as a matter of fact, we haven't had one come yet. We have a relationship with somebody that our patients or people that are not patients yet are able to actually get on their phone and do it via web because of this entire COVID thing. It's not a good idea to have close contact and more than one person in the building with me. So what we do is there's a web address. They put it right into their phone, and the registered nurse gets on and she makes an appointment virtually with you over your phone. It costs my patients $49. There's an ID, and that's it. It has nothing to do with me other than the fact that I need my patients to have an ID in order to serve them. And my patients can come from all states.
I think it's, from my understanding of the ordinance, it's going to get down to how much a home occupancy allows you to do in the location you're in. And it pretty clearly states that it has to be only residents of the home that are doing anything there. So we start talking about having nurses there with I'm not saying you are or you're not, I'm just saying then we're starting to move this into a bigger business where I believe that's where there's going to be some concern.
Yes. I haven't had anybody there for that yet. If it's not something
understand.
that's
I'm just,
permissible, I
I'm
won't,
just-
and I'll do it online, and they can take care of it that way, if
Right.
that is ever an issue.
right.
But
I'm just
I do have a
saying,
nice setting for people if they do need it.
again, we get back to what the words that in front of us say. We can only interpret the words that are here and try to apply it to what you're telling us to see if it fits within the guidelines that we have to say this is acceptable or not. And that's why I'm kind of clarifying that.
I have another question. On your website, you call yourself a dispensary,
A dispensary?
Mhm.
A
a
caregiver.
cannabis dispensary.
Can I see where it's worded, or is it just listed that way under
No,
Weed Maps?
no, it's on your website. And so I wondered, are you a registered dispensary?
I'm a registered caregiver. I'm a caregiver with a caregiver office.
Okay,
And I
well-
dispense medical marijuana in all forms.
Okay, so I think the registered dispensary is like 2425A. Do you know? I don't, so you aren't a registered dispensary.
I'm a registered caregiver.
Okay,
Registered dispensary is a whole different thing.
well,
Up to the microphone.
Yep.
Sorry.
She's not a registered dispensary. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at what you're looking at, so I can't
Well,
specifically respond.
yeah, I can't get we need to be looking at what she's advertising. It definitely says that they're a dispensary. It says it more than once.
Again, I'm not, like, if that's something
No,
generated by
on your
you,
website.
yeah, I can't respond on their behalf because I'm not looking at what you're looking at.
So, yeah, so I'm just concerned because then that's what I was saying. If she's a dispensary, then she falls into a different category. And if you're not a dispensary, then you're misleading people.
She's most definitely not a dispensary. That's a very different license. What I'm looking at on the website says Maine medical marijuana caregivers, cultivators, extractors, and
Well,
chemicals
I can't,
distributors.
I'm not going to look on my phone for it right now, okay? But I didn't imagine it. All right, so, anyway, just check it out, because if you're not one of these, if you're not a dispensary, then please fix that, because it's misleading. And,
And if you could later
Yeah, I'll
where
just-
it says it, I would be happy to. I
Yeah.
actually have
Yeah.
Town Square Media who takes care of my website for me.
uh-huh,
I don't see it on the About Me page as we're scrolling through it right now.
Is that correct?
Sorry,
She applied for a permit for a two-car garage.
I applied for an extension off of my garage.
Okay. Again, I apologize.
It's
I
okay.
forgot my hearing
So
aids.
when I applied, I didn't say I was making a bigger garage. I said I was making an extension off of my garage. Like, so
extension
that you
off
knew
your
in the
garage.
direction of which
Okay. And
the build was going.
so so the 60 by 25 structure is used for what?
Sorry, sir. What?
We were still working on responding to Ms.
To
Robert, and we did find
the-
one occurrence of the word dispensary that needs to be removed on Weed Maps, one occurrence.
Yeah.
So somebody else wrote that for her, she'll take care of that. Could you please repeat your question?
you're
Again,
just interested in knowing what
What's
the
in the
building
building?
was designed for. Is that right, Ernie?
yeah.
Yes.
Clarify, please.
Come up.
When I first, my name's Matt Roy, owner of the building. When I first applied, we wanted an extension off the building because we always wanted a rooftop deck coming off our master bedroom. Plus, I needed storage. I got a lot of stuff. We were growing our medical marijuana down in the basement in tents. When we started building, we were bringing in electricity. We were supposed to bring in 400 amps. My electrician was like, hey, it's not really safe what you're doing in the basement. Why don't we bring in more electricity? So we brought in more electricity. And then I found out I was sick. And then we decided to go the route that we were going to provide my wife with an income, so be it. The reference letter that you are reading was a letter that was declined by Jen. So that is null and void. That was a business plan that we had When I first applied for a home occupation, she denied it because I still had my construction business at the time.
That's correct.
And she also denied it because she also told me at the time in Berwick, caregivers did not need home occupancy. So at that point, we took that back. So everything on that is null and void. Since then, we've had to re-alter everything we were going to do. It wasn't fair for us to meet people in the Cumberland parking lot and be imposing on their business. We made it so that out-of-state patients who were coming in had a safe environment. They felt welcome. We made
But I have had nothing growing. I mean, anybody could walk through my building. I have no commercial kitchen. I have a certified kitchen at my house. I have 2 certified kitchens in Sanford so I can do my baking. I don't know.
We had to re-alter what we were going to do because of the first denial. I liquidated my construction company. I do own another construction company that has nothing to do with that property. I have a business partner who owns, and we operate out of his location. So we've gone above and beyond. I've taken my right away of growing to appease the town.
When legally you do not have to give up your rights medically when you are a medical patient in need.
We've had everybody come through our house. I've invited the police to come through my house to show them how we separated our whole thing. We have locks on every door, digital locks on every door.
Everything is safeguarded. We have camera system. We have security. And honestly, we're here today I don't think we're here today because of what I do. I think it's because of a lack of communication. And if my neighbors would have been like any other neighbors and said, hey, can we have a cup of coffee and talk about this? They could come through my building and see that I'm a mother too, and I have children too, and safety is number one, and it will be number one, and that will never change.
Again, we'll get down to, really, we just got to look at what
Yep.
what the words say and what we're allowed to approve and
So
not
just
approve.
to justify, that letter that she read is
Okay.
null and void.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
In your mission statement, you refer to that your services are from seed
To sale. To sale, yes,
to
sir.
sale.
Yes.
And I assume then that means that you're growing marijuana.
That means that all the marijuana that I grew within my basement, I kept that, and that was on reserve until I opened Stash, and that's what I've been operating from. Since then, caregivers can operate with caregivers, but I still have a reserve.
You have frozen again. Please refresh.
Okay. I'm going to remove my mask so you can hear me, okay? All right.
Again,
face
you have
forward.
frozen.
Just a second, I can get a wait.
Sure.
And we're almost
Can we
we're
all
back.
remove our masks?
We're back.
Are we good?
I guess that's what James says. James,
Perfect. All right, Jennifer McCabe, Code Enforcement Officer for the town of Berwick. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on the last kind of year and a half, if you will, so you guys have a better understanding from our point of view, the
Right.
town. So I was not the code enforcement officer when this application originally came in. His name was Dan Vincent. When this application came in, it wasn't approved right away, and it wasn't approved right away on the basis of we thought there was a commercial business going in there. We reached out to Mr. Roy and asked him if it was indeed a commercial business. We were aware at the time that he had Stonehenge Stoneworks. We knew it because it was a HOMOC, because they sponsored youth teams in our community. She's right about that. She's been a coach in our community. They've given back, you know. So when asked, they said no. It was for them to store, at the time they told Dan it was to store ATVs and other things from 2015 code or not. So as they were building it, inspections were done on this property. I went out to do a framing inspection where they had begun insulating at the time. And I had questions about all of the electricity going into this building. the state electrical inspector, Brian LaFlame, brought it to the town's knowledge too, that this was an 800 amp service that was going in, and that he guided us on, he told us that we should not let CMP energize this building until we could take a walkthrough. That walkthrough never happened. We reached out to Mr. Roy. He told us that he would change the amp service down to, I think it was 600 amp service. That's what we were told at the time, something like that. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was a 600 amp service that he said he would go down to if we would approve his application and pretty much move on. So anyways, in Berwick, the code enforcement officer does not oversee any electrical inspections, electrical permits, but we do keep, in line with what the state is telling us. So Brian LaFlame, he tells us, and then we kind of go from there. So moving on from that, Stash Incorporated came to us. So Matt Roy came to us, and he wanted to, we were talking about it. We had a lot of neighbor complaints about growing in that house. And at the time, what he's talking about is, we thought that Jess was just a caregiver at that time. We had no knowledge of there being a website, it being a real home occ business. All over Berwick right now, we are, all over Berwick right now, people are growing in their houses under caregiver licenses, and their attorney's correct. We can't ask them certain questions about it. I can tell you that it's confusing because I spoke to Matt a few times, and I've reached out to Phil, and Phil can speak to this because it just felt like we were never really getting the whole story about what was happening there. And I just kept saying, there's more to this story, we have to figure this out. So anyways, Stash Incorporated is not allowed employees. They're not allowed to have instruction there under our land use ordinance. It was permitted as an extension to their garage. We obviously, when the application came through, we didn't ask we had no knowledge of Jess being a caregiver at that point. The town is not privy to that information. We're never going to be,
Just,
okay. And what they're speaking to about Matt, not the date of that was February 25th. February 25th? Anybody have that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It was the week before, but it was canceled because it wasn't completed. So anyways, Joe Roussel from South Berwick went out. He CO'd the building, didn't find anything wrong with the building according to the IBC 2015 code. And he issued that certificate of occupancy when I was out on maternity leave. And then the next step of that was their home occ business. We had talked to our town attorney several times just about this address. And so I came back, it was a Monday, and I came back that day, and unfortunately, I was only working, I came back part-time for the first week. I was back after 5 weeks of being out on maternity, and James had signed. So you want to know when it changed over from a
right,
garage?
I mean, it sounded like when you were talking about it, you had questions about the service, and yet it was still just a building.
It was still a building,
A storage building or something, and then they got a permit for a home occupancy. When did that all happen? How did that occur?
So the building permit came in long before the home occupation permit was applied for. We did deny one before, but the home occupation was permitted. James, do you have the date in front of you that it was permitted?
It'd be in the.
I have it, it's September 18th.
No, the initial.
The building permit?
The home occupation permit.
That,
It would have been about a month ago.
3/8/21.
that's
I would
here.
say
This
March
one?
8th too. I'm pretty sure this
March
date came back.
February
So-
25th,
3/8/21.
February 25th, 2021.
Yeah.
March 8th,
March 8th.
2021.
Count it. Certificate of occupancy, there we go, signed by Joe Roselle.
The home occupation permit.
So I feel like we need to state, I just
Changing
want to state before you guys,
What happened had some complexity to it, from what I can hear.
sure.
Are there things that either you learned from this or that you would do differently?
Yes. There's definitely things that we would do differently as a town. One of the things that moving forward that we've done, we've implemented is businesses like these, we have a lot more questions that we need to ask. Unfortunately, most of the people that come to us for a home occ for this use, medical marijuana, they're very open with us and they tell us and they want to tell us everything and help us through, and they just want to lay their cards out on the table, give us their security plan, give us their odor control plan. They really want to work with the town on that. It was very difficult for the town to sort through whether or not to issue, not to issue each permit, because it was very difficult. It wasn't an easy process for 68 Ridland Road.
Forgot that question.
Application. And at that point, if it meets the application standards, it's permitted through the permitting officer, then it's,
Do they have to get a separate permit for this?
yeah, it's a home occupation permit.
So this is what they applied for? This,
I just want to, let me just take a look for it. Yeah, so that is the town of Berwick's home occupation permit.
Yeah, and that's
Those are the guidelines that each,
Okay, she signed it. There's other documents in this. She's listed, but it's somebody
Yeah.
else signed it.
right. Yeah, yeah.
so I'm assuming you went down through this list, I guess,
Yeah, I can talk from here.
okay.
I don't know,
I know what I want to ask now. Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
My concern about this frontage business, because it seems to be part of the issue that we need more information on. What is considered frontage?
I can speak to that. I can speak to that.
Okay, let me just give a scenario that if I were to call the Berwick police.
Point 3 are performance standards of conditional uses. So that's indicated on page 35 and 36 of the land use table. And on page 38, when it has a star next to the C, that indicates in Article 8 there's performance standards. So everything in 8.25.3 and below are performance standards for when they go to planning board. So that includes school setbacks, the neighborhood plans, the frontage on Route 4. Those are for a different use that's not an accessory marijuana use. Marijuana use.
You got that? Is that sort of?
What I can
think
hear.
we gotta, I know.
Did you just say something about someone having, addressing odor and addressing security, the other
Yes.
marijuana people that
So-
come in, caregivers?
under home occ, we don't necessarily require it. We require it under our commercial grow facilities. And that's just neighbor courtesy. So they come in and they tell us their security plan. We have them reach out to Chief Town and just let them know what they're doing there. We also have them reach out to Chief Plant. So Chief Plant has an understanding if his guys show up to a place like 68 Redland Road they know what they're up against. They know it's a grow facility. They're not going in blind. And they just kind of know the building layout of what's there. So, and again, I'm just going to state that a lot of these, businesses that fall under home OC, because there are a lot of them all over Berwick. A lot of them, they just lay their cards out on the table. So they reach out to Chief Plant, they reach out to Tim, Chief Town. They give us an odor control plan. They've done all of their back leg work by the times they come to us for a home OC permit. And I can tell you that this one was very difficult, to maneuver and to find information and because we just do everything based on facts, So when I talked to, let me just add to that, when I talked to Phil, which is our town attorney, there were some questions that, we would've, could've, would've, asked the Roy family, whether or not they're extracting there, because those are complaints that have come in, whether or not they have their home kitchen, certified through the agricultural.
You have frozen again. Please refresh.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry, Pat.
That's all right. I'm just
We'll wait.
using the opportunity to
And-
try to understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
Back, I think.
we are back.
We're back.
Okay, so when you have a home-based kitchen like this that falls under home OC business for medical marijuana, you have to be certified through the Department of Agriculture. So we didn't really have, these are all things that we needed to work through, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for the town to maneuver this.
Have you worked through it now?
I don't know if they have a license through the Department of Agriculture, but I can tell you that some anonymous calls had come in through the police department about 68 Ridland Road, and there were some times where things were investigated and they were unfounded. So that I can say.
They were unfounded,
Yeah.
what you said?
The 825 guidelines that we looked down through,
Yep.
they don't apply for home occupancy. Is that what you're telling me?
They do. They do. Do I have them in front of me? Hold on.
So, I know that one of them specifically states that, primary year-round residence is allowed in every base zone. But then, there's a number of odor control, security, performance standards, all of those. I'm assuming once you have the permit, you still have to meet all of those requirements. Is that right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that, because, I was just thinking about, you can extract mine, you can have a gravel pit, but that doesn't mean you don't follow the rules in the ordinance that say, once you have the permit, you still have to follow the rules in the ordinance. So anyone that's doing medical marijuana or any marijuana industry is still gonna fall under the guidelines of these
Correct.
8, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, most of the people that fall under home OC and they have accessory use grow facilities at their house, whether it's in an outbuilding or inside their house, they're just
Frozen again.
I think we're back. We're back.
Okay.
Are we good?
Yep.
All right. So ask that question one more time.
No, I think I'm all set. I think you answered my
We're
question.
good?
Yep, but
Okay.
I know you wanted to speak.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I think we're all set, thank
Sure.
you.
And I'm going to take my mask off to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah,
That was a misstatement of your ordinance. That is not correct. what I believe code enforcement was saying was that accessory use home occupation caregivers, others that she had dealt with, voluntarily offered information about security and odor mitigation. That is not required for a home occupation permit. Your requirements are on this permit. And so the kitchen at 68 Ridland has been certified by the Department of Agriculture. That's a simple question that if they asked would have gotten an answer about it. No one's hiding anything at 68 Ridland. Like I said, we're on YouTube talking about everything going on at their house. But it is not the state of the ordinance in Berwick that the performance standards that fall below 8.25.3 apply to a marijuana caregiver. That is not correct. That is for commercial marijuana operations in Berwick. The state of your ordinance today is any medical marijuana caregiver's primary year-round residence in every base zone and every overlay zone, subject to the performance standards on the home occupation permit, period. So a secure,
Sorry to interrupt, and Article 7.
And Article 7, I haven't looked at it, whatever that is.
And that
I
does
take you at your
include
word.
odor control.
Yes, it does.
But not that, that you submit a plan is not required. And if you want that to be required, that's great. Most towns do require something like that. You can certainly add it by changing your ordinance and adding it to this checklist.
Right.
But the permit was properly issued to Ms. Roy because she met all of the requirements on your home occupation permit. So the fact that other caregivers may have submitted, home caregivers may have submitted security plans and odor mitigation plans, that was voluntary. If there are questions by code about odor mitigation, which isn't relevant today because there's nothing growing, all they have to do is ask. I've been in the place. They have an HVAC system. They have plans for odor mitigation. Jess talked about her security plans that she has in place. They are literally an open book. So any inference, any implication coming from code enforcement is just not correct and not appropriate. And her characterization
Just a second. I think she's just speaking that that's the impression that she had. So, I mean, I don't think you can put
You're right.
words in her mouth. I mean, she just said that when she was working with them, that was her impression. So I think we want to stop casting stones on both sides here, okay?
Well, correct, I agree. And I think a lot of stones have been cast, and I think we've patiently sat and taken a lot of it. But a lot of it is mischaracterizations. As she said at the beginning, there were police reports, but then never bothered to say they were unfounded until just a minute ago.
We
So
got all of that.
We
We're
understand
fine.
that there's some pushback on this use, but they are in compliance with Berwick's ordinance. And so, of
And
course,
that's what we're here to decide.
if you want the ordinance to be different, you can change it. But they're in compliance today.
Thank you. Yes.
I did address the odor issue. I put in an email to her that we were going to use scrubbers. I did tell her that we were going to have security. At first, we were still growing in our basement. My basement is all wired up to grow in the basement. Made it safer for my family to move it to the new construction. That's why we went from 400 amp. The electrician said, why don't we put in 800? I was like, do you need a parent permit for that? He addressed it with the state. The state came in. They did the inspection. You weren't there. I was compliant. I've talked to everybody I've had to. We've gotten every single permit we've had to. We've even had OMP called in from the town. And we were told by them that it was the town that had called. But we were told by the town that the OMP had called them. So I don't know what's going around and whatever it is, but I have made every due diligence to have every single permit to abide by the HIPAA laws that protect us. So it is, if anybody knows HIPAA laws, any nurse that would know a HIPAA law, any doctor, says that we don't have to talk about our business. The expansion on my building looks exactly like my house. It's the same color. I could have done a greenhouse. I could have done anything. I could have had a shack like half of the grows in this town. I beautified the area. I just had an appraisal on my house. I've increased the value of my house by almost $300,000, which helps the neighborhood. I put in almost $100,000 worth of landscaping. I mean, I don't know. I'm doing my due diligence.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Just a second. I think I had a question over here.
We have also appraised our house to be refinanced, and we were told by the appraiser that the value of our home went down by $50,000 because of the house across the street.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chair, when I stated about the odor control, I just want to put it on record and spoke about the odor control in the security plan. I was simply answering Pat, Mrs. Bover, asking me what we would change in the future going forward. And
Understand.
okay,
Thank you.
yeah.
Okay. We've heard a lot, and I think if your heads are any more spinning than mine, or less, then I'm happy for you, because I'm trying to take all of this in. Do we need to hear any more comments or any more, have any more questions answered at this point in time?
I have a couple things. I was concerned about the home occupation, the fact that you have 2 locations.
We don't have one location.
Well, what about the one in northern Maine?
Northern Maine.
That's a delivery
That's a delivery service.
Could you step
I'm
up?
sorry.
So
We're allowed to deliver from the tip of Maine to Kittery. It doesn't matter where it is. There is no other location in northern Maine.
Okay.
We offer a delivery service because we're both from Fort Kent, Maine, the Canadian border. So naturally, that's where we grew up, and we have an incredible amount of patients there, actually. And it requires us to take pre-orders, and we bring them up directly to every patient's house every 3 weeks. I start here in Berwick, Maine, and I do just about every town stop. It takes us the better course of 3 days worth of work before he can come back home, and we have serviced everyone. There is no other location.
Okay.
Our patients know us as Stash North when we're going north,
Thank you.
And the other thing is yeah, I leave at 2 in the morning.
because that's the only way to get to Fort Kent, which is 6.5 hours away, than to start an 11.5-hour shift.
Pat, did you have another question?
I'm looking.
Oh, that's fine. Anyone else have any questions about Pat's?
So, Jenny, you had said about the signature on the permit, right? Where James was filling it at the time, and whatnot, but that makes it, you said it's invalid?
Well, it makes it invalid until they come back in and sign. Our attorney gave us some advice for them to come
They.
in and just have it issued.
Okay, so they'll come back in, see you, and you'll sign it. That's what you're saying?
That's what our town attorney has advised.
Okay, so once you do that, then this will be good. At the moment, it's not. Doesn't matter right now until there's the one that you sign.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
We did. James and I did issue a letter. I don't know if you saw the letter. It was in the packet.
So,
Was that public?
Yeah, everything's public. Do you
Did
have
we
a
see
copy
it?
of
Did
it?
we get it? I'm just asking because she's asking.
I didn't send it to you directly, but it's on the, I'll email it to you tomorrow.
The letter just says why James signed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a,
We did, I would like to say, though, that my lawyer, I would like to say that even though you're pulling things out now, my lawyer has asked for all of the information and clearly has not received all of the information, and she can attest to that, can't she?
sure, I mean, I don't,
Who did you?
I mean,
I emailed with James and asked for everything related to this permit, and I got the one-page permit. I was a bit surprised to see everything that was in the agenda packet today. The letter you're referring to, I would love it if you would send me a copy
It
when you
should
have
be
a
in your
chance.
packet. Do you have it?
I didn't see it in the packet.
Do you guys have it in your packet?
What is it saying?
It was only a paragraph, I believe. Right?
Signed by James.
It was a short.
No, I don't think so.
It was only a paragraph or so. Right here.
I didn't
Just a
see it.
paragraph, James, right?
Yeah.
Short one. Yeah.
Oh, the little one?
So what is the status of this permit now? Are they in non-compliance?
What's that?
Are they in non-compliance right now? They don't have a valid permit? I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around this.
Yeah, I have another question about the Town of Berwick Certificate of Association is made out to both of them. And you said it can't be made out to both of them, or they are a cooperative.
No, we both own,
I think she's addressing
sorry.
James.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of cooperative, I mean, that is tied to the number of plants. So when they're not allowed to combine their license to, in effect, double the flowering,
But-
if they combine their medical licenses to double the plants they can grow, that's not allowed.
Okay, but he's not,
That's in our
he-
ordinance.
but he is not a caregiver.
Yes, I am.
Oh,
but
I thought
am
at the
not
be-
growing.
Oh, I
can be
thought
a
at the
caregiver.
beginning you said that one of you was and one of you wasn't now.
Yes, we were both caregivers. I haven't given up my caregiver license.
Okay.
I'm choosing not to grow to
Okay.
appease the town.
Okay, so it's okay that you both are on this certificate of association.
Yes, well, that's our corporation. That's how we pay our taxes. That's how we pay our sales tax.
Okay, so
Our-
that's all in order then.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Rick, we have, someone's raising their hand in the Zoom room. I don't know if you want to entertain any more discussion. That's totally,
That's public, are they a player in all of this?
it would be general public discussion.
We're not certainly at that point yet.
Okay.
I think we're still trying to get through there's three people, or the three parties.
So we find to be clear that right now there's no permit right now.
Follow up on that.
So right now there isn't one right now.
Isn't one what?
There's no permit at the moment.
We have been advised by our town attorney, Phil, and he can speak to it if you guys want, for the Royce to come back in and sign a new document.
Okay. Well, it's one of the main precursors to
It's
they have to have one to
That is correct.
to go against.
Right, so how do we say there's an invalid, or it wasn't?
There isn't
there
one.
there?
This is invalid. It's not.
Phil, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, it's a little different from what you're saying, but I'll sort of, I wasn't involved in the issuance of the permit, so I just make that clear for the record. That's why I'm able to represent the board here. James reviewed the permit and issued it. I'm looking at the letter that's in the packet that you're referring to now, April 12th. And what it says specifically is that on March 8th, the town granted the Roys a home occupation permit. After review, the 8.2 standards were found to be met as of March 8th. Please see permit occupation attached. And in conclusion, the town of Berwick issued the home occupation permit on the criteria attached to this letter. So as drafted, it seems to suggest, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, that you're saying, even though you didn't sign it, you agreed to it. You agreed that it is met. Is that true? Is that what you're saying in the letter?
That is what the letter states, correct.
Okay. This is a little complicated and it's an interesting question. I hate to delay anything, but I think there's a good question being raised now, which is if the code officer has not actually signed the permit, but she is saying that she agrees with it, so will likely issue it. Then under your ordinance, the code officer is the one that has to sign permit applications. That's in the permit section of your ordinance.
Correct.
So at this point, it sounds like there is no code officer issued permit. What you could do, and again, I hate to delay it, but you could continue this meeting and if the code officer reviews it and signs it, then you would have a permit to actually review at the next meeting. The reason why I suggest that is because someone could raise a question, and I'd like to hear from the two parties, but raise a question that if for example, you upheld the quote permit that's been appealed now or overturned it, there could be an argument in the future that it was invalid anyway, and so there was nothing to uphold or overturn. So one thing you could do is wait for the actual permit once the, assuming Jen issues it, maybe she won't, I don't want to presume, but based on the April 12th letter, and then you have an actual permit that then you can apply this appeal to. That's a suggestion I have. I know you've taken some time hearing arguments, and so it may be frustrating for people, but it technically, it may be better to actually have an actual permit in front of you to deal with.
I think I want to follow up on that because it was part of the discussion that when we were going to have the discussion, I wanted to go over this part of the ordinance anyway. It's on page 122. Concurring vote, this is decision by the Board of Appeals. The concurring vote of the majority of the members of the board shall be necessary to reverse any order, requirement, decision, or determination by the code enforcement officer. We can't reverse anything. We don't have anything right now
To reverse.
So I think I agree 100% with what you're saying is I can't sit up here and follow the ordinance when I don't have a valid permit to revoke or to decide upon. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. That's what the words say, and I don't have a code officer anything right now to overturn or to decide upon. Am I misreading that?
No, that's a good reading of it. And one suggestion I have is, again, you could continue this meeting instead of concluding it, and reconvene after a decision, after the permit is actually issued, assuming that it is based on the letter and the record.
I
Yeah.
think
We have
I
to-
will offer is there a motion to convene this meeting right now?
To continue the meeting to another
Convene it
date?
Until we
Right.
have the proper paperwork in front of us to act upon. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'd say it's worth having maybe some more comments to avoid. If anyone has anything left to get out now, so we can think about it or figure, so it doesn't come up at the next meeting. So we'll have time to,
Excuse me, from a public standpoint, if you delay this meeting now, that is just going to allow people to, shall I say, get more ammunition or change their story or change their website when
Listen,
it is
ma'am.
already no.
Ma'am,
He muted her. Yeah.
is that who?
James muted her.
Okay. I understand what you're trying to tell me, but I believe that I'm very comfortable in the fact that right now we've got words that we have to go by, that we can't fulfill the obligation of this ordinance.
Instruction.
And I agree with Ashton that what I want to do is put the motion on the table, and then we'll offer discussion. So any further discussion that we want to hear, and then once there's no more discussion, we'll vote on the motion that was seconded if someone seconds the motion. Okay?
To reconvene
So-
once this.
So we've got right now a motion on the table for continuance of this meeting until we get proper documentation on the permit that we're supposed to be seeing. There's a second, there's a motion, is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, there's a second. So now, is there any further discussion
Third.
out there before we continue this meeting? Does someone have something that they want to say right now? If you
Yes,
want?
please.
Just one second.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Can I say something? So say this permit is granted once again, but if you go by the 8.25 adult use in medical marijuana, which they're stating they are, the location, the 8.25.3, they are allowed in R3 zoning, which Ridland Road is, on properties which have frontage on Route 9 and Route 4.
Okay, well, we're gonna, like I say, it's not in our ballpark right now to understand. I mean, we could take that back under advisement once we have a permit to look at. But right time, I just don't feel like going down to public comment is just gonna do anything to benefit our understanding of this problem.
So these are our butters, but I think at this point,
we've heard everything
About
we
an hour
need to
and a
hear.
half, and you guys will have time to speak at the, Okay.
I have one thing. I have one thing that can you guys address her concern?
it doesn't apply.
Well, then, why don't you
Well,
explain
that's
it?
not their
Explain it.
fault, Pat. That was me.
Yeah, I don't want them to keep thinking that's.
Okay, so what was your question?
She's,
It's
these,
about the Route 4 and Route 9 front, it's allowed in every base zone, so it's not applicable.
I know, but, they don't seem to understand that. Do you that?
Applicable.
I know, but, they don't seem to understand that. Do you that?
So,
That's all, I'm just looking so that they don't
I
worry
understand,
about
but-
that if they, I don't know, I'm not sure how to,
That's fine.
I have a question for Jennifer. Do we have a written statement from the Berwick Chief of Police or his designee that the department has reviewed the measures and if they have any recommendations? Okay? So this may be a good opportunity if we're talking about revising the permit or going through some of that process again. I'm wondering if we have that already or
where
the
is
fact
that?
that you'll get that because that is indicated here.
That would be up to the Roys to obtain that from Dennis Plant, Chief of Fire.
So it's not a town concern?
No, but that doesn't really fall under our home occupation.
The reason I ask is that it talks about having the police chief
Yeah.
have an opportunity for some suggestions. Now, that could involve traffic, it could involve a lot of different things, I don't know. But that's part of, under 825.5, security. Prior to granting approval, the planning and/or code enforcement department shall receive a written statement from the Berwick Chief of Police or designee that department has reviewed the measures and if they have any recommendations. What that means, I'm not,
I don't know either.
That doesn't
So-
apply to a home occupation.
Yeah, can you help?
I think that's,
Yeah.
but we're gonna, again, that's why it's going back to where it needs to go, so that when this board gets back, we can ask those questions and we'll know the answers to those.
Yeah, correct. But they're right. It does not apply to a home occupation
Permit.
permit for this.
All right. I do want, just to make sure that the lawyer has any comments or questions that you want to make. I don't think we're even in the proper stage of this. I don't think when you close the discussion, it's only supposed to be between the board. But at the same time, I don't want to leave this meeting and not have questions.
I guess why would it need to be reset? But I'm going to defer to your judgment on this and and what the town attorney is saying. If it's- But this was news to us. I certainly reached out to the town and was never told about this April 12th letter. So we certainly could have potentially identified this issue before tonight and rectified this before tonight. That would be my only comment.
The person that's speaking, what was that question again?
Question was,
I'm sorry, this is Jeff Schaff, a budding neighbor. I was just curious about the selection process of, folks who are invited to this meeting.
I'm sure it had to, the ordinance requires that it has to be advertised in a newspaper so many days ahead of time. I'll defer to James. I hope we did
Yeah.
correctly.
Yep.
200 feet of the.
200 feet?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so I spoke to, the 9 members of the association, and only 2 of them were invited to this public appeal. So I want to make sure that we're good as far as the audience of what we're trying to achieve here is. Because my neighbor was not invited, and he's well within that 200 feet.
We do our best to notify people within the rules that are set up in the ordinance and publicly, through newspapers. and I'm sure word of mouth. This is a public hearing, so anyone's invited to a public hearing. It's not invitation only. It's just that we do try to inform anyone that's in close proximity so that they are aware that it's going on. We do advertise it in newspapers so the public's aware. We unfortunately don't have, I was on the Board of Selectmen. I well understand that we don't have a newspaper that really gets to the public in Berwick. It's just a difficult task for us to try to inform people.
Completely
we
understand.
have tried to do that,
I
I'm
want to make sure that
sure.
we have the appropriate audience here to represent the concerns.
Right, thank you. Okay, I believe, and now I'm gonna close it to this board. Are you comfortable where we're at right now? We've basically got a motion on the table, we're gonna continue it. We have all the information we need, it's going back, as I understand right now, to the town to figure out, basically, and I'm not trying to give the town a hard time, but we want something official sitting on this desk that we can act on. And right now, we don't feel like we have it. That's why we're continuing this to send it back to the town. Are we okay with that on this board right now?
Yes.
Okay? So all in favor of continuing this meeting until a further time, until we have some information, and we will get to the public and let them know.
Yes.
All in favor?
In favor.
Okay. So the meeting is adjourned at this point in time, and I apologize for any misunderstanding. It certainly, I will blame some of it on myself. Brand new, we got 3 brand new people on this board. We're going to do our best to try to work our way through this and come up with an answer that hopefully, probably no one's going to be happy with, but legally the best we can do with the situation that's been presented to us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.